Cartoon Lagoon Behind the Bowl, a celebration of the voices you know, but the faces don't.
Yeah.
So you're a comedy actor.
I am. I do comedy.
And you're a voice actor.
And I do voice, yes.
And you do a lot of on-camera work, but a lot of voice work too.
Yes, I do.
But I know that you are also the voice of Chip the Wolf.
I am Chip.
And you were Chip the Wolf for how long?
Oh my gosh, how many years has it been? Jacques and David gave me the part to
Back
do in the States.
early 2000s is what I remember.
Yeah.
Late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, and it was before you and I started working together.
And it was originally for Europe.
Actually, I think I was the American Chip, because originally Chip was done by a British voice.
I, Chip the Wolf, will use my latest invention to get the delicious Cookie Crisp.
And I basically went a little Christopher Lloyd with it, you know. I just saw, the flux capacitor, Marty, what are you doing here? So I went, Chip here, Cookie Crisp spiral over there. But then, when you and I started working on it, what I liked about it is we added an element of Wile E. Coyote genius, which is originally what I guess that guy was doing.
Yeah, I remember though when we pushed it, Wile E. Coyote, it almost ended up like Fraser Crane.
Yes, it was like Chip here. No, it was so it was still Chip here, Cookie Crisp cereal over there, but not for long. It was just a little more, John Gilcott.
I have a truly genius way to get the kids away from the Cookie Crisp cereal. A cookie that flies! No, you disagree. Trust me, it looks like a cookie.
But now, though, you're officially the voice of Frankenberry.
Really?
How great is that?
Oh my God!
Right now, this is breaking news. Well, you've been the voice of Frankenberry for a couple of years.
Don't tease me here. I got 2 kids in college. I mean.
So, when you originally did Frankenberry a couple of years ago,
Frankenberry, yes, it was
for a radio play, like it was for a record.
Great thing. I know you kids out there don't remember this, but when there was years ago, see what you'd do is you'd go and you'd buy your cereal, and on the back would be like a really crappy recording, and you put a couple of quarters on it, and it would play a little song or something. And I remember there was a haunted house version with, and what was so fun about that was I got to do the announcer.
Yep.
So I, of course, had to do greetings, foolish mortals.
Oh my God, I forgot that you did the announcer too.
What was that wonderful actor's name?
We were channeling Paul Frees.
Paul Frees from The Haunted Mansion, and that was what was so fun. And of course, doing Frankenberry is just so wonderful.
Who are some of your favorite voice actors and some of your biggest?
Well, we've mentioned already.
Paul Frees.
Paul Frees, of course. Bob McFadden, Chuck McCann, Larry Kenny. My very first job in New York was a Tricks spot.
Wow.
With Russell Horton, who's another one. Russell, I walk in, I'm just playing an announcer, a reporter. I was probably a Tom Brokaw type of on the camera that Sonny's watching. Not Sonny, I'm sorry, the Rabbit. And Russell, of course, was doing the Rabbit, and Larry Kenny was doing the voice, the announcer, part of this good breakfast, yeah, and me, and Bob Caliban, who's another famous voiceover actor.
And you were a kid next to these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Next to those guys, I'm still a kid. And that was my very first job, my very first voiceover job. Wow. And there I am watching it. And I learned a lot from that, because Russell works the mic, he's doing pole dance, and I thought, why not do that? Because you think you're like, part of this very good breakfast, you get into it, And then when Larry goes and does Sonny, I'm like, I grew up with these guys.
It's amazing to watch, isn't it?
And you're sitting there and you hear, someone go, "Hey son, how you doing? I'm Larry Kenny. Nice to meet you. How are things going? We're ready for you." "Oh my goodness!" You're like, where the hell does that come from? It's amazing.
That's a great Larry Kenny impression.
Well, he's one of my heroes, you know.
You do a wicked Robert Conrad Bullwinkle.
Oh, William Conrad.
Robert Conrad
was
totally
Wild
different
Wild West, yeah.
Right.
I was an
William
Artemis
Conrad.
Gordon guy, because, you know, you play different characters and everything like that. Things look bad for Rocky and Bullwinkle. Join us next week when Hanky takes a panky, or... That was the best part. It was like they would, you know...
Join us next time when our guest will be... Who let all the crickets in here?
What's your process? Do you have one? Is it just you listen and then you try, or do you sit around, do you talk to yourself? Larry said no process. You can either do it or not. Chris said he likes to listen to it over and over again. What's yours?
That's bullshit. Chris Phillips is the best mimic in the country.
Ahoy, mateys! This portion of Cartoon Lagoon is brought to you by Deep Six Sugar Bomb Cereal.
I learned a lot from Chris. Chris is my mentor. Obviously, we're closer in age than brilliant guys like Russell Horton and Larry Kenny. And those guys are my mentors too, just because they're idols of mine. And it's kind of cool when you end up becoming friends with guys that you worship. But Chris, because he's such a giving individual, when we're working together, Chris will help me with the voice. And what I learned from Chris, from watching him, is that he voice blends. He'll take a voice, like for instance, I was really sweating it because you needed Chris to do another voice in a spot, so you wanted me to do Chris's character.
Right.
And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And I said it to Chris. We were in the booth together, which was a blessing because Chris said, Rob, I'm just doing Tommy Chong. Why don't you just add your, I forget who the actor he added, like your George Burns. So
I remember this.
Remember? It was, yeah. And so, hey man, I just started doing Tommy Chong, right? Which is
and
actually
just add a little George Burns, and then you're fine.
And it became this, right? Okay, you know, just and he. So I was like, oh wow,
It's like a recipe.
and a lot. Yeah, it's like a recipe, and that's what I've learned. You know, you don't want to absolutely nail the impression in advertising or for animation.
You want something original.
You want something original. So, you know, Chip here is obviously me doing Christopher Lloyd, but you change it just a little. And you gave me a great tip. Keep a little Rob Pruitt in there, because only you can really sound like Rob Pruitt.
No,
you did.
Nobody can replace Russell.
Nobody can replace Russell Horton. I also do the voice of the Blue M&M, and I've only been me ever since the color came out.
Nice.
Voted every year the favorite color.
Blue M&M.
Year. And,
Blue M&M.
and originally I was doing Dennis Miller, you know, and then I had a little Sammy in there.
With a little Sammy Davis Jr.
And then all of a sudden, once I worked with you and you gave me that great advice, I added a little more Rob Pruitt.
Because then they...
I did.
Now,
so if you listen to Blue over the years, it becomes more me.
Look, I'm done being an M&M spokescandy.
Blue.
I've got a new gig now, and it's a perfect fit.
If you take the reins of a character,
Yeah.
that is a big piece of pop culture. I mean, you've created the Blue M&M. That's a big, right? So
Yes.
Chip the Wolf.
And Chip.
Then you walk into Frankenberry. That was the great Bob McFadden.
Gosh, I know.
What do you do?
Well, it's intimidating for one thing, and you want to nail it, you know. And I listened a lot to Bob doing Frankenberry because he's obviously doing Boris Karloff.
So same deal, right? So like you take...
guy. But what Bob did that was so brilliant, is that he looted so wonderfully, which Boris Karloff does not do.
It's a sweeter...
Sweet, very sweet, because it's a very sweet cereal, isn't it? Tappy. That's from The Body Snatchers. Great movie.
Frankenberry. And Blueberry.
Another Saturday night.
And how did you end up in voiceovers?
That was the
Comedy?
question, wasn't
Yeah.
it? So I came up here and to be an actor, and I did an American Express radio spot where they wanted a stand-up, and it was very popular. I did it with a wonderful stand-up comic named Patty Rosenborough that was, at the time, the co-host of Short Attention Span Theater with Jon Stewart.
Right.
On Comedy Central.
Wow.
And it became very popular, and so I started doing voiceovers for commercials, radio, and on television.
It is funny how ridiculous our jobs are.
I know. It's
Sometimes don't you just marvel like that you see people worry about things, and I mean we worry about paying our bills and stuff, but
oh my gosh,
it's such a dumb job.
Well, Confucius said, or was it Larry Storch? It was one of those guys said, if you enjoy what you do for a living, you'll never work a day in your life. You know?
No. You don't dive in anymore. Insurance, lawsuit, someone might hit their head. They make you wade in now with a buddy.
Now, if you were to give advice to kids who are coming up in the business about voiceovers, what would you tell them?
Wow. I think it's tougher for kids. I would imagine it's tougher now for kids coming up to do voices. I got lucky. I fell into it, you know. I will say that, like I said before, doing impression are great to get a voice.
Right.
You know, but to have different
as a chest to access.
Yeah. And then I would say the two best voice actors in the country are Chris Phillips and Billy West.
Wow.
And they are probably two of the nicest voice actors in the country too, and I think that has a lot to do with it. When I act, I always try to give myself like little mantras to say, and when I'm on stage, I always remind myself before I go out there to never embellish, never indulge, always have an action. When I work on any job, when I'm doing, a film, which I don't do a lot of, but when I shoot a film or a television show, or if I'm working for you, or a commercial like that, I always say to myself, as my mantra is, always be on time, always be pleasant to work with, always honor your contract. I think that your reputation as an actor is why you get the job. You don't want to be difficult to work with. It just doesn't get anywhere. And I'm telling you, the famous people that I worked with, the ones that were really talented, were the nicest people to work with.
Oh, that chocolate makes me so angry. How could a cereal possibly be better than Frankenberry? I've got strawberry sweeties in mine. And he's foreign. Czechoslovakia.
You know we love you.
And you can't get ice in Czechoslovakia. It's the birthplace of humidity.
I love you guys too. I will always work for you. But it ain't work.